want to live, stop asking questions, and hold on.
The black SUV had barely turned onto the empty highway when everything changed. 1 second, the road looked clear. The next, a pickup truck came flying out from a side street, cutting directly across their path. Before anyone inside the vehicle could even scream, the man behind the wheel reacted with lightning-fast speed. He slammed the brakes, spun the steering wheel just enough to avoid a deadly collision, and guided the SUV through a gap that looked far too small for any vehicle to fit. Tires screamed against the pavement as another black SUV suddenly appeared behind them, trying to force them off the road. Inside the back seat, billionaire businesswoman Victoria Bennett grabbed the leather armrest, her heart racing. Just an hour earlier, she had believed this would be another ordinary drive to one of the biggest business meetings of her career. Instead, someone was trying to kill her in broad daylight. Her security team had been separated during the trip, her phone had lost signal, and there was no police car in sight. Yet the man driving never looked scared. His eyes stayed locked on the mirrors, studying every movement around them like he had seen this kind of danger before. His breathing stayed calm, his hands never shook. He seemed to know exactly where the attackers would move before they even made their next turn. Victoria couldn't understand it. This was supposed to be the quiet black single father she had hired only a few weeks ago after giving him one chance when nobody else would. He was just a driver, or at least that's what she believed. Then the first gunshot shattered the driver's side window. Glass exploded across the dashboard, but instead of panicking, the driver pushed the accelerator, controlled the sliding SUV, and steered them behind a line of concrete barriers. Every move was quick, precise, and fearless. It wasn't luck, it looked like years of professional training. Victoria stared at him in complete disbelief. Who was this man? How could someone who had been struggling to pay rent just days earlier suddenly drive like a military expert under deadly pressure? The attackers were getting closer, but the driver never lost focus. In that terrifying moment, Victoria realized she knew almost nothing about the man she had trusted with her life. His name was Marcus Johnson, a broke black single dad trying to rebuild his future, but there was one part of his past he had buried so deeply that nobody had ever guessed the truth. And within the next few minutes, that secret would not only save Victoria's life, it would expose a story that no one saw coming. Marcus Johnson wasn't born into money or privilege. He was the kind of man who believed that hard work, honesty, and keeping your word still mattered, even when life gave you every reason to stop believing. At 38 years old, Marcus lived in a small rented apartment on the south side of the city with his 9-year-old daughter, Zoe. Every morning before sunrise, he made her breakfast, packed her school lunch, braided her hair the best he could, and walked her to the school bus with a smile that hid the pressure he carried inside. Ever since his wife, Jasmine, passed away after a long battle with cancer 3 years earlier, Marcus had promised himself that no matter how hard life became, his daughter would never feel alone. But keeping that promise wasn't easy. The savings they once had were gone, the rent was overdue. The electricity bill sat unopened on the kitchen table because he already knew what it said. His old pickup truck had stopped running weeks ago, forcing him to take buses across the city to every job interview he could find. Time after time, employers looked at his resume, noticed the gap in his work history, thanked him for coming, and chose someone else. None of them knew that before becoming a struggling father looking for work, Marcus had spent years serving his country as a Navy SEAL. He had completed missions most people would never hear about, protected lives without asking for recognition, and watched close friends make the ultimate sacrifice. When he returned home, he didn't want medals or attention. He simply wanted a peaceful life with his family. After losing his wife, he quietly stepped away from the life he once knew and focused on raising Zoe. He never talked about his military past because he believed that chapter of his life was over. To him, being a good father mattered more than being called a hero. Even when money was almost gone, Marcus refused to take shortcuts. He never blamed the world, never asked for pity, and never let bitterness change the man he was. Every evening, he would sit beside Zoe while she finished her homework, reminding her that tough times don't last forever if you keep moving forward. She believed every word because her father never broke a promise. Marcus had no idea that the next morning, one unexpected opportunity would place him on a path that would change both of their lives forever. The chance he had been praying for was finally about to arrive, and it would come from someone who saw more in him than just another man searching for a job. The opportunity came on a rainy Monday morning when Marcus was sitting at the small kitchen table, looking through job listings on his old laptop, while Zoe finished her cereal before school. His phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. At first, he almost ignored it, thinking it was another bill collector, but something told him to answer. A professional voice introduced herself as an assistant from Bennett Global Industries. She explained that one of the company's executive drivers had suddenly resigned, and they needed someone immediately for an interview that same afternoon. Marcus had applied for the position weeks earlier and honestly believed no one had even looked at his application. He thanked her, borrowed a clean tie from his neighbor, pressed his only dress shirt as best he could, and caught 2 buses across town to reach the company's headquarters. The building was everything he expected from a billionaire's business: glass walls, expensive cars, and people dressed in designer suits. As Marcus walked through the front doors, he could feel some of the other applicants looking him up and down. His shoes were polished but old, and his suit had clearly seen better days. A few people whispered to each other, assuming he didn't belong there. Marcus ignored them. He wasn't there to impress strangers. He was there to earn an honest job. During the first interview, the hiring manager noticed the gap in his work history and asked why he had been unemployed for so long. Marcus could have invented a story, but he chose the truth. He explained that after losing his wife, he stayed home to raise his daughter and only returned to full-time job hunting once she was old enough to manage school without him every hour of the day. He never mentioned being a Navy SEAL because he didn't want special treatment. His honesty surprised everyone in the room. Just as the interview ended, Victoria Bennett happened to walk past the conference room. She was preparing for another meeting when she overheard Marcus thanking the interview panel for their time, even though he wasn't sure he would be hired. There was something calm and genuine about him that caught her attention. She asked to speak with him privately. Instead of asking about his driving skills first, Victoria asked one simple question: "Why do you want this job?" Marcus looked her in the eyes and answered without hesitation: "Because my daughter deserves a father who never gives up, no matter how many doors close in his face." The room fell silent. Victoria had interviewed hundreds of people over the years, but very few answered with that kind of honesty. In that moment, she made a decision that surprised her entire executive team. She offered Marcus the job on the spot, believing that character could never be taught, and sometimes all a good person needs is one chance. Marcus treated his new job differently from everyone else. To him, driving for Victoria Bennett wasn't just about getting her from one meeting to another. It was about making sure she arrived safely every single time. He showed up at least 30 minutes early every morning, checked the vehicle from top to bottom, inspected the tires, tested the brakes, and planned every route before they left the office. While other employees rushed through their work, Marcus paid attention to the little things that most people ignored. He noticed which streets were usually crowded, which parking garages had poor security, and which entrances left Victoria exposed to large groups of people. He never complained or acted like he knew everything. Instead, he quietly did his job with discipline and respect. At first, Victoria thought he was simply an experienced professional, but after a few weeks she realized Marcus had instincts that couldn't be taught. One afternoon, they arrived at a charity event downtown. As Victoria stepped out of the SUV, Marcus quickly glanced across the street and politely asked her to wait inside the vehicle for another minute. She looked confused but trusted him. Just seconds later, a delivery truck lost control while turning the corner and crashed into the exact area where she would have been standing. No one was hurt, but Victoria couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Marcus never acted like a hero. He simply helped people move to safety and continued with his work as if nothing unusual had happened. Another day, he noticed that a man claiming to be part of the event staff didn't have the proper identification badge. Instead of causing a scene, Marcus quietly informed the security team, who later discovered the man had entered the building using fake credentials. Once again, Marcus refused to take credit. He simply said he was paying attention. Little by little, Victoria began relying on him for more than driving. During long trips, they talked about family, hard work, and the lessons life teaches through pain. Marcus never spoke badly about anyone, not even the companies that had rejected him. He believed respect cost nothing, and that attitude impressed Victoria more than any resume ever could. She also noticed how every afternoon, no matter how busy the schedule became, Marcus called his daughter for a few minutes just to make sure she had reached home safely from school. Hearing him encourage Zoe to study hard and chase her dreams reminded Victoria of the values her own parents had taught her years ago. For the first time in a long while, she felt she could truly trust someone without questioning their motives. What neither of them realized was that while trust was growing inside the company, someone else was quietly watching from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy everything Victoria had built. As the weeks passed, Marcus settled into his new role, but something about Bennett Global Industries didn't feel right. On the surface, the company looked successful. Employees smiled during meetings, investors praised Victoria Bennett's leadership, and the media talked about a major business deal that could make the company worth billions more. But Marcus had spent years learning how to notice the things most people ignored, and his instincts kept telling him that someone inside the company wasn't loyal. It started with small details. One morning, he found Victoria's usual parking space blocked by a delivery van that had no company logo. The driver claimed he had made a wrong turn, but when Marcus politely asked a few simple questions, the man's answers didn't match. He quietly reported the incident to security, yet the report seemed to disappear. A few days later, Marcus noticed that the route to Victoria's next meeting had been changed at the last minute without her approval. The new route passed through a quiet industrial area with very little traffic and almost no police presence. Marcus suggested taking the original route instead, saying it would be safer because of road construction. Victoria trusted his judgment and agreed. Later that evening, local news reported a serious armed robbery in the exact area they had avoided. It could have been a coincidence, but Marcus wasn't convinced. Then stranger things began happening inside the office. Confidential meeting schedules somehow leaked before important events. Security cameras around the executive parking garage stopped working for nearly 2 hours without any clear explanation. One of Victoria's longtime assistants received anonymous emails warning her to convince the CEO to cancel the upcoming billion-dollar merger. Everyone assumed it was just another prank from internet trolls, but Marcus could see the fear growing on people's faces. The biggest surprise came during a board meeting when Marcus happened to overhear 2 senior executives talking outside the conference room. The moment they noticed him walking by, they stopped speaking and quickly changed the subject. Their nervous expressions stayed with him all day. Marcus never accused anyone without proof, but years of military service had taught him that danger rarely announces itself. It hides behind friendly smiles and expensive suits. That evening, before driving Victoria home, he respectfully told her, "Ma'am, I don't know exactly what's happening yet, but I believe someone close to this company doesn't want you to succeed. Until we know more, I think we should be extra careful." Victoria looked at him for a long moment. She could hear the sincerity in his voice. Marcus wasn't trying to frighten her or act important. He was simply following his instincts. She nodded and agreed to increase security, unaware that the people planning against her had already decided their next move. The trap was no longer being prepared. It was about to be set, and Marcus would soon find himself facing the greatest test of his life. The morning of the merger announcement started like any other. Victoria Bennett stepped into the back seat of the SUV with a folder full of contracts that would change the future of her company. Marcus greeted her with a calm smile, but something immediately felt different. The streets were unusually quiet, and a black SUV had been following them since they left the office. Marcus checked his mirrors without saying a word. After a few blocks, another vehicle pulled out in front of them and suddenly slowed down, forcing Marcus to reduce his speed. At the same moment, the SUV behind them moved closer, trapping them between the 2 vehicles. Marcus knew this wasn't an accident. In a steady voice, he looked at Victoria through the mirror and said, "Stay low and keep your seatbelt on." Before she could ask what was happening, a loud bang shattered the silence. The front vehicle swerved sideways, blocking the road completely. Marcus reacted instantly. Instead of slamming on the brakes, he turned the wheel sharply, guiding the SUV through a narrow opening beside a concrete barrier. The tires screamed across the pavement as the attackers chased them. Victoria held onto her seat, shocked by how calm Marcus remained. His eyes never stopped moving. He watched every mirror, every corner, and every possible escape route. It was clear he had faced danger before. As another vehicle tried to force them off the road, Marcus used a quick driving maneuver that sent their SUV safely onto a side street, leaving the attackers struggling to follow. He grabbed his phone and called emergency services while continuing to drive, giving their exact location without sounding nervous. Within minutes, police sirens echoed through the area. Seeing the patrol cars approaching, the attackers abandoned the chase and disappeared into traffic. Marcus finally brought the SUV to a stop in a secure location and turned to check on Victoria. She was shaken but completely unharmed. Looking at Marcus with disbelief, she whispered, "You're not just a driver. Who are you?" Marcus took a slow breath before answering, "I'm just a father trying to do the job you trusted me to do." But deep inside, he knew the life he had tried to leave behind had finally caught up with him. Within minutes, police officers, detectives, and Victoria's private security team arrived at the scene. They surrounded the damaged SUV, taking pictures and asking questions about the attack. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. How had one driver managed to escape a carefully planned ambush that should have ended in disaster? One detective replayed traffic camera footage and watched Marcus's driving over and over again. The precision of every turn, the way he predicted the attacker's moves, and the calm way he protected Victoria didn't look like something an ordinary chauffeur could do. It looked like years of elite military training. Victoria couldn't stop thinking about it either. Later that afternoon, she quietly asked Marcus to join her in her office. She thanked him for saving her life and then asked him a question she had been holding back all day. "Marcus, who are you really?" For a few seconds, Marcus remained silent. Then he took a deep breath and told her the truth. He explained that before becoming a father and searching for work, he had served for years as a Navy SEAL. He had led dangerous missions in places he could never discuss, lost close friends in combat, and returned home carrying memories that would stay with him forever. After his wife passed away, he made one decision. He wanted to leave that life behind and give all his attention to raising his daughter. He never mentioned his military career during the interview because he didn't want people to hire him because of his past. He wanted to earn respect for the man he had become, not the uniform he once wore. Victoria listened in complete silence. She realized that the quiet driver she had trusted every day had never been looking for recognition. He had simply been protecting her because it was the right thing to do. At that moment, her respect for Marcus grew far beyond employer and employee. She knew she had hired a driver, but she had unknowingly placed her trust in a man whose courage, discipline, and character had been tested long before he ever walked through the doors of Bennett Global Industries. The failed attack changed everything. Police, federal investigators, and Victoria Bennett's corporate security team launched a full investigation. What first looked like a random ambush quickly turned into something much bigger. Marcus shared every detail he had noticed over the past few weeks: the unexplained route changes, the missing security footage, the suspicious delivery van, and the confidential meeting schedules that somehow kept leaking. At first, those details seemed small on their own, but when investigators connected them together, they uncovered a clear pattern. Someone on the inside had been helping the attackers every step of the way. The evidence eventually led to Richard Collins, one of the company's senior executives. For years, he had earned Victoria's trust while secretly working with a rival business group that wanted to stop the billion-dollar merger. The attack on the highway had been the final step in his plan. If Victoria had been killed, the merger would have collapsed, the company's stock would have crashed, and Collins would have made millions through hidden financial deals. But he never expected Marcus Johnson to be behind the wheel that day. Armed with phone records, financial transactions, security footage, and witness statements, investigators arrested Collins and several people connected to the attack. As officers led him out of the headquarters in handcuffs, employees watched in complete disbelief. The man they had respected for years had betrayed the very company that gave him everything. Victoria stood silently in her office, realizing how close she had come to losing not only her business but also her life. She turned to Marcus and quietly thanked him once again. His sharp instincts, calm decisions, and refusal to ignore small warning signs had uncovered a conspiracy that no one else had seen. Justice had finally been served, and the people responsible would answer for their actions. But for Marcus, the greatest reward wasn't seeing criminals arrested. It was knowing that he had kept his promise to his daughter, to always choose what was right, even when no one was watching. A week after the investigation ended, Bennett Global Industries held a company-wide meeting at its headquarters. Employees from every department gathered in the main auditorium, still talking about the attack and the arrests. Many of them had no idea that the quiet driver they greeted every morning had been the reason their CEO was still alive. Victoria Bennett walked onto the stage, thanked everyone for standing by the company during one of the hardest weeks in its history, and then asked Marcus Johnson to join her. The room filled with applause as Marcus slowly walked to the front, looking as humble as ever. Victoria smiled and said, "This man never asked for recognition. He never told us about his military career, and he never expected anything in return for risking his life. But because of his courage, honesty, and quick thinking, I am standing here today." The audience rose to their feet, giving Marcus a standing ovation that seemed to last forever. Marcus felt uncomfortable being the center of attention, but he accepted it with quiet gratitude. Victoria then surprised everyone with a special announcement. She officially promoted Marcus from driver to director of executive security, placing him in charge of protecting the company's leadership and improving its entire security program. Along with the promotion came a salary that would completely change his family's future, full health benefits, and a college education fund for Zoe. Marcus could hardly believe what he was hearing. That evening after work, he stopped by the apartment office and paid every dollar of overdue rent. The landlord smiled as she handed him the receipt and congratulated him. For the first time in months, Marcus walked home without the weight of unpaid bills on his shoulders. When Zoe ran into his arms after school, he hugged her tightly and told her they would never have to worry about losing their home again. In that quiet moment, Marcus realized that the greatest reward wasn't the promotion or the money. It was finally being able to give his daughter the safe and stable life he had promised her from the very beginning. A few months later, life looked completely different for Marcus Johnson and his daughter, Zoe. Their small apartment had been replaced with a warm, comfortable home where laughter had taken the place of worry. The kitchen table that was once covered with unpaid bills was now filled with Zoe's school projects, family dinners, and plans for the future. Every morning, Marcus still woke up early, packed Zoe's lunch, and drove her to school whenever his schedule allowed. Even with his new position as Director of Executive Security, he never forgot the difficult days that shaped him. He treated everyone with the same kindness he had shown when he had nothing. One afternoon, after picking Zoe up from school, she climbed into the car holding a paper she had made in class. It was a drawing of the two of them standing side by side. Across the top, she had written in big, colorful letters, "My dad is my hero." Marcus smiled, but tears quietly filled his eyes. Zoe looked at him and said, "Daddy, everyone keeps saying you saved a billionaire, but I think you saved me every single day. You never gave up on us." For a moment, Marcus couldn't speak. He simply hugged his daughter, knowing those words meant more than any promotion, paycheck, or public award ever could. That evening, Victoria called to check on them. Before ending the call, she thanked Marcus once again for reminding her that true leadership isn't measured by money or power. It's measured by character. Marcus looked out the window as Zoe laughed in the backyard and realized that life had come full circle. He had once believed he had lost everything, but in reality, he had never lost the things that mattered most: his courage, his honesty, and his love for his daughter. Those qualities had opened the door to a new future when every other door had closed. And maybe that's the lesson we can all take from this story. People may judge you by your clothes, your job, or your bank account, but those things can change overnight. What never loses its value is your character. If you keep doing the right thing, even when life feels unfair, one opportunity can change everything. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that hope is never lost.